Hi, and welcome back to BeanTalk. In the last few episodes from our Milan series, we talked a lot about extraction. Specifically about extraction in different espresso machines. So the Cimbali espresso, the Cimbali M100 and the Faima E71E. So now we wanted to talk a little bit about what extraction actually is in terms of coffee. And so for that we invited our profi barista once again to explain us a little bit what extraction is and also how we can measure it. And now let's go up to Benji into the Mumac Academy. Okay, so we're back up in the Mumac Academy here with Benji, who we already know from a few of our past videos. Hi Benji.
Hello Max.
So let's talk about extraction.
Yes, when we talk about extraction, we're talking about the process when the water extracts different solids out of the coffee ground. So for example, we can extract sugars, acids and also bitter notes out of the coffee.
Okay, but how can you measure that? How can you say how much you extract out of the coffee?
So therefore we use a little device called a refractometer. And the refractometer shows you exactly how much total dissolved solids you have extracted.
Okay, and so since in the last few videos we talked a lot about extraction on espresso machines, what would be the ideal extraction for an espresso?
So for espresso we kindly most of the time use 8 to 12% of strength with an extraction yield from 18 to 22%.
So could you maybe make a coffee?
Of course.
To show us? So what kind of recipe are you using for this espresso?
For this espresso I used 18 grams of coffee and 36 ml of water.
Okay, is there a certain reason why especially we're using this recipe?
Yes, because now I have a brew ratio from 1 to 2. That means 1 gram of coffee ground and 2 grams of water.
Okay, so talking about back to the refractometer and total dissolved solids. So what would be the ideal in this case? So we want to get 20% extraction?
When I have a brew ratio from 1 to 2 and I got a strength of 10%, I will have an extraction of 20%, which in most cases for most coffees is absolutely ideal.
Okay, so we just use 1 to 2, but like under other standard recipes?
So the typical Italian espresso, for example, is 7 grams of coffee with 25 ml of water. That is a brew ratio from 1 to 3.5. And this is not as strong as the recipe I use here.
Okay. Maybe if we go away from espresso and talk about filter coffee. Of course, a filter coffee is not quite as dense as an espresso. What would be the ideal TDS, for example, for filter coffee?
So for filter coffee, it's depending on where you are. For example, in Europe, most of the Europeans prefer a filter coffee with a strength of 1.3. But for example, in Scandinavia, they like their coffee stronger. In Scandinavia, they have a range from 1.4 to 1.6 TDS. And the Americans, they like their coffee way more weak. They prefer a strength from 1.2%. So it's a little bit depending on where you are and how strong your coffee should be.
So, but for somebody at home now that doesn't have a refractometer just laying around, like I don't at least, maybe if some of you are fortunate enough, how would you recommend, how can you say that coffee should be in the range of around 18 to 22% of extraction?
So what you can do is you can measure the seconds and also the grams that's coming out of the machine. So for example, when you have about 20 to 30 ml in the cup, you should have about 20 to 30 seconds of extraction time. This is quite of a safe spot when it's going about.
Okay, So, but what happens if it's less than 20 seconds or more than 30 seconds? What's the difference?
So under 20 seconds, we're talking about an under extraction.
Okay.
In an under extraction, the water is going way too fast through the coffee. And that means that the water cannot extract the right amount of things. So the coffee will taste a little bit more sour, for example.
Okay.
When we're going over 30 seconds, we're talking about an over extraction. In an over extracted coffee, you will taste way more bitter notes. So it's not in balance.
Okay, that's quite good to know.
Yeah, so you should always target for about 25 ml, 25 seconds, then
Okay.
you're safe.
Okay. Thank you very much, Benji. That was enlightening, and finally, hopefully everybody understands what extraction means. And yeah, that's it for this week. Thank you very much. Drink loads of good coffee and have a great week. Bye.